What's going on, everyone? My name's Craig, and welcome to the Tempered Podcast. This is the very first episode, so I'm going to go into a little bit of my life. I'm not going to go right to the beginning. I'm going to start at the point that brings us to where we are now. Only 2 years ago, I think it was. Two, three, something like that. To be honest, I've been living this same day for so long now, it's hard to tell what's what. Um, But what I'm going to talk about, it honestly might be triggering to some. So it is about suicide. So we're going to start there. So in when I was about 20 years old, I ended up meeting this beautiful young woman, and we had this really long relationship that was full of ups and full of downs, and it really helped me grow in a lot of ways. And then we came to an end. We grew in different directions, and we were both suffocating. And from that, I had met somebody a little bit prior who honestly, there was just something about her. Now, I want to make it clear I never crossed any lines here. I am against cheating. No excuse. But after the long term relationship split, myself and this woman, this new woman, we started to connect in a very short time frame, maybe 4 weeks or so. And you might find yourself thinking, how can you move from a 7 to 8 year relationship and then jump into a new thing so quickly? And the truth is, I I had been dead inside for such a long time, and that is there is nothing to do with the person that I was seeing. It's just that I never spent the time growing up to kind of figure out who I was. And so I found myself in a point where, after feeling so dead, I finally felt alive again. And it was intense. I had never experienced chemistry like it. I had never been, I don't like the word seen as a man, but it made me feel seen. It made me feel accepted as I was. And it was the first time where I felt this deep sense of wholeness. Not the first time in my life, but the first time in a very, very, very long time. And so, of course, this person and I quickly became involved. And it was amazing at the start. I couldn't get enough of it, to be honest. It was like a drug. But then all of a sudden, it ended. And I was left with this giant hole that I couldn't fill. I had been in low points in my life multiple times. I'd been diagnosed with depression and anxiety at 14 years old, and so those low points have been a common in my life. And over the years, I've gotten better at handling them and better at understanding what is happening. But this knocked me over my edge. Ultimately, I think because this person who all of a sudden came out of nowhere and meant the world to me no longer wanted me. And it wasn't that I was bad or that she was bad or anything like that. It was just that we always clashed and triggered one another. We had amazing chemistry, but we weren't aligned. We weren't good for one another. And it took her to have the courage to say, no, this isn't what I want. but it still destroyed me, and I couldn't understand why that was happening. The breakup from the relationship itself was 6 months, but the breakup coming out of nowhere, I was blindsided because I didn't want to accept and acknowledge the signs that this wasn't good for either of us. In my mind, I was kept bringing myself back to, no, this is fine, this is gonna work, because I'd stayed in a relationship where both of us were unhappy for a while. And so to come out and experience somebody else who's like, no, this isn't what I want. I want more than this. Completely unaware that that was a thing. Sounds ridiculous now to say. But what happened through that breakup was I lost my identity because I was someone who was always in a relationship. I was a boyfriend. I was someone who was trying to get better. I was someone who was dealing with mental illness in the best ways that I could, that I knew how. What I felt were the ways that were working for me. And so I ended up reaching this low point where my heart just felt shattered. I was in a place of, to be honest, it's kind of hard to go back there. But I was in a place of deep grief, and there was no escaping it. Like all the bullshit that I had avoided for my entire life, all the things that I turned away from, that I turned to scrolling and video games and pornography and relationships and food and drugs and drinking, exercise, everything to escape being with my pain. I couldn't escape it anymore. It was like being hit by a fucking truck. Like at that time, I was going for drives in the middle of the night. I was, I was, I was punching the fucking dashboard, the steering wheel. I was screaming at the top of my lungs because I couldn't handle the fucking pain. I couldn't handle it. I was, I was not a man of faith, but I was praying to God. I was like, what the fuck is this, God? Why have you done this to me? Like I was planting my foot and hitting astronomical speeds, screaming. Like picture just foot to the floor, the car picking up speed drastically, my entire body just tense, just gritting and screaming at the top of my lungs to the point where I see stars. Like this is the level that I was at this time in my life. And so I wake up one morning and I am just in a pit of despair. I'm crying. I can't even get out of bed. Like I feel fucked. And I just had the thought. I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. There's nothing in this life for me. There is nothing here for me. I can no longer do this. Like one more hit, I can't. I cannot do it. I remember I was just in this state of freeze. I couldn't even move. Like it sounds ridiculous to people who haven't been in that like deep level of grief or haven't experienced depression to that extent. But there's times where you just cannot move. You cannot move your body. you tell your body, I'm going to move, it doesn't go. There's just this disconnect. And to be honest with you, I'm very fucking lucky. Very lucky. Because one of the tools I've been utilizing throughout my whole healing journey is journaling. And I just had this thought, and it was enough to give me a little bit of a momentum to get up and write. So I got up, I got a book, I got a pen, and I just started writing. And what I ended up writing was a goodbye letter. Because I was fully prepared to take this step. But fortunately, I had no rope, and I had nowhere to do it where I wouldn't get caught even setting it up. That, combined with the fact that I was bed rotting, was enough to keep me alive. Now, I'd been at this point more than that, just not to that extent. Like, anyone who has experienced deep depression and grief has thought a lot about death and suicide, and they know how they're going to do it. They've researched it. They know. It's so fucked up, dude. But the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because I have moved on from that place. My life is exponentially better than what it was then. Not externally. Externally, not much has changed. But internally, because I was forced to look at all the fucking grit and the bullshit and the shame and the guilt and the anger and the self-loathing, the sadness and the hurt, because I was forced to be in it with no escape, I got through it. Fortunately, somehow, I made it through. So the whole reason I'm at this point where I'm developing this podcast and I'm posting social media content is because I have a story to share. I have experience to share. And it is my God-given fucking right and purpose to use my pain to transmute it to help. Maybe it's just one person who sees it and they're like, this, I don't feel so alone. I can make it another day. So this is what it's all about. Because I'm now on a journey to become the best version of myself that I can. Not only for myself, but for the people around me, for the future family that I plan to have, for my community, which essentially is you guys, as you come along with me. So, not all episodes are going to be this, intense, I guess. I've tried to kind of keep it without going too deep, but is what it is. And we're just going to go from there. So, I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know. Because knowing that it's helping or people are getting something from it is going to help me maintain the course of moving forward with this. So yeah, I guess that wraps up episode number 1 of the Tempered Podcast. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk again soon. So awkward. Have a good one.